Hey, welcome back to the Coin Box. This is one of my favorite coins in my collection, and it's not because it's worth big bucks. I like it mainly because it's a scarce error and because it reminds me of someone special. My grandpa had a bookstore in Mexico for many years, and as a kid, I remember climbing up the ladder to an office space above the store and seeing 5-gallon buckets full of demonetized Mexican coins from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. A few years later, I rode up with him to a coin shop in Phoenix, Arizona to sell his collection. Unfortunately, I wasn't into coins then, so sadly I don't remember what all he had, but I remember the dealer needed some time to appraise the collection, which was in several boxes. They sorted out all the gold and silver and anything of value and returned some boxes of coins they didn't want. I remember it was a disappointing offer, but we had traveled all that way, so my grandpa decided to go ahead and sell it all. Skip ahead 15 years to about 3 years ago. With my interest in coins growing, I would occasionally talk coins with my grandpa. Then one day out of the blue, he asked me if I wanted a couple of boxes of coins he had left. I told him I would love to go through it and buy it from him, but he insisted on giving them to me. I now had so much research to do. For the most part, he had saved one coin of each year per type, and of some coins he had multiples of each year in bags. I remember sorting through these and coming across this odd-looking one. I set it aside, then I looked at it through my loupe, and man, that sense of discovery is pretty special. Sadly, my grandpa passed away before I found this coin, but I would have loved to be able to show it to him and talk to him about it. Of course, I didn't know what kind of error it was, so it took me a bit of research to find out. But that's the story behind this coin, and it's also why I really don't care how much it's worth. It could be worth $1 or $1,000, and it wouldn't matter, because I think every collector should have at least some coins whose value to them has more to do with its story than its market value. This very coin was probably in one of those buckets I saw as a kid, and also in one of those boxes the coin shop didn't want so many years ago. And more importantly, of course, it belonged to my grandpa and was one of the last things he gave me. And even though he had already given me so much more than mere things during his lifetime, this coin does remind me of him. So how did this error happen? Well, broadly speaking, this is a struck-through error. If you haven't watched it yet, be sure and check out my video explaining what a struck-through error is. More specifically though, this kind of error is known as a struck-through dropped filling error. Depending on what the dropped filling is, you may also see it referred to as a dropped letter, dropped number, or simply a dropped design error. In this case, it's a dropped number error. To illustrate this error more visually, I've used some Play-Doh to try to replicate the face of a die. The die, of course, has the design of the coin both incused and mirrored. During the minting process, the die begins to fill and get clogged with a mixture of grease, debris, and metallic dirt that becomes compacted in the recesses of the incused design. As a side note, coins struck at this stage will have faint or missing design elements. These are known as filled die or struck through grease errors, both of which are more common errors. Once again, Scott Dahl very kindly shared these next few images with us. These have all been certified as struck through errors. On this coin, you can see that part of the date is missing, meaning that those digits on the die were filled. Here's another very cool example of a struck-through error on this coin. Although it's not specified, it was probably struck through grease, as you can see how most of the inscriptions and a large part of the design was obstructed. And finally, here are a few more examples that show either partially missing dates or inscriptions. Going back to my die, after multiple strikes, this grease mixture begins taking on the shape of the letter or number it's filling. At some point, that hardened filling breaks loose and drops or falls onto the incoming blank planchet. The die then strikes the filling onto the planchet, creating an incuse impression on the newly minted coin. It's possible for the coin to retain the filling, although more often than not, after being struck, the filling falls away. Dropped filling errors tend to be unique, so it's very difficult to find two alike, although it is possible for the dropped material to stick to the die and strike a series of coins. I call my coin the Running 2 coin since that's what it makes me think of, and hey, because it's mine and I get to name it. Here are a couple more examples of this error. This coin belongs to Alfredo Robles, and even though it's a different year, it's similar to mine. It's interesting to me that once again, the dropped filling came from the number 2. I'll leave links in the description to both of these excellent Facebook groups that specialize in error coins, one based in the US and the other in Mexico. Both groups have very knowledgeable administrators, so if you're interested in error coins, be sure and check them out. Here's a post from the renowned Ken Potter in the US group showing a dropped letter error. And as he points out in the post, it's neat that you can clearly see that RUS are still being struck through grease, but the newly cleared T is very sharp because the filling just dropped out. So there you have it. Let me know your thoughts on this scarce error in the comments below. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like and share it with a numismatic friend. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.